What if I told you that the constant tension you see in the Middle East, particularly concerning Iran, is not really about Iran at all? It goes much deeper than headlines about regional rivalries or nuclear ambitions. We're led to believe it's a localized issue, a powder keg waiting to explode. But the truth is, what's happening is a symptom of a much larger global transformation. Welcome to The Observer Explained. Today, we're peeling back the layers of geopolitics to reveal the hidden economic war that will define the 21st century. This conflict isn't fundamentally about a single country or even religion. It's about controlling the very architecture of the global economy and ultimately determining who becomes the next superpower. This is a grand chess match for dominance, and the pieces are moving right now. To understand this, we have to go back to the 1970s. After the US detached its currency from gold, it struck a monumental deal, primarily with Saudi Arabia. The agreement was simple. Oil, the lifeblood of the world, would be priced and sold exclusively in US dollars. In return, the US would provide military protection to the Gulf kingdoms. This was the birth of the Petro Dollar system. It guaranteed a constant global demand for dollars, cementing America's economic supremacy for the next 50 years. Every country needing oil had to first buy dollars, effectively underwriting the US economy. Central to this entire system is geography, specifically choke points. The most critical of all is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which about a fifth of the world's daily oil supply passes. Iran's strategic position along this strait gives it immense leverage. The ability to disrupt, or even just threaten to disrupt, this flow of energy can send shockwaves through the global economy, causing oil prices to skyrocket and markets to panic. This single point on the map is the Achilles heel of the global energy supply chain. This brings us to the regional players. Iran, feeling cornered by decades of sanctions, sees its control over Hormuz as its ultimate insurance policy. The Gulf Cooperation Council states, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, depend on the free flow of their oil exports for their economic survival and rely on their security partnership with the West. Meanwhile, Israel views Iran's regional influence and nuclear ambitions as an existential threat, creating a complex web of alliances and red lines where any miscalculation could lead to a wider conflict. But this is no longer just a regional game. The major world powers are all deeply invested. The United States acts as the traditional security guarantor, but its domestic energy boom has shifted its priorities. The European Union remains heavily dependent on stable energy imports. And then there are the rising giants, China and India. As the world's largest and third largest oil importers, respectively, securing energy routes is a matter of national security. For them, they cannot afford disruptions, and they are increasingly unwilling to rely solely on a system dominated by their main geopolitical rival. This is where the direct challenge to the old order emerges, the rise of the petro-yuan. China, as the biggest customer for many oil-producing nations, has been systematically encouraging them to accept its currency, the yuan, as payment for oil. For countries under Western sanctions, like Iran and Russia, this is a lifeline. It allows them to bypass the US-controlled financial system entirely. Every barrel of oil sold in yuan is a small chip away from the foundation of the petrodollar's dominance. This has fueled a massive grey trade. Sanctions are only as effective as their enforcement. We now see a growing fleet of tankers operating in the shadows, engaging in ship-to-ship transfers at sea, and turning off their tracking systems to hide their destinations. This clandestine network, often involving complex insurance and financing arrangements through non-Western entities, ensures that sanctioned oil continues to flow, primarily to buyers willing to operate outside the dollar system. It's a cat and mouse game played on the high seas, further eroding the West's ability to use economic sanctions as a tool of foreign policy. In response, all sides are investing in infrastructure to gain an edge. We see the construction of new pipelines that bypass maritime choke points and massive investments in liquefied natural gas or LNG terminals to diversify energy sources. At the same time, grand strategic projects like China's Belt and Road Initiative and the newly proposed India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC, are not just about trade. They are geopolitical moves to create new economic arteries that can be controlled and secured, rerouting global commerce for the century ahead. In this new landscape, India and China represent two different models of rising power. China has been methodically establishing itself as the primary alternative to the USA for decades, using its manufacturing might and financial muscle to build dependencies across the globe. India is a more recent arrival on the world stage, leveraging its massive, young and English-speaking population, its demographic dividend, to become a hub for services and technology while cautiously navigating the great power competition. Both are energy hungry and both see the current moment as an opportunity to reshape the world order to better suit their interests. This brings us back to Iran and its strategic leverage. There have been serious discussions and reports of Iran offering preferential treatment or even exclusive passage through the Strait of Hormuz to tankers participating in trade settled in yuan. Imagine a scenario where Iran declares it will only guarantee safe passage for oil sales conducted through the Petro yuan system. This would force energy-hungry nations to make a choice: stick with the dollar and risk supply disruptions, or switch to the UN to ensure their energy security. If such a system were to take hold and become the norm, the consequences would be seismic. The artificial demand for the petrodollar would evaporate. Countries would no longer need to hold massive dollar reserves, leading to a potential flood of dollars back into the US market and triggering hyperinflation. The economic might of the West, built over half a century on the foundation of the petrodollar, could crumble. This is the real stake in the game. It's not just about one country, it's about the future of the entire global financial system.